This video contains spoilers for Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 0 Hour. As Star Wars Rebels comes to a close for its third season, we get a really great finale. It's a two-parter like last season. It gets so much done, it wraps up so much, and it feels big. I think this is quite possibly one of the biggest battles we've had in Star Wars. I'm not sure if it overshadows things like the Siege of Ryloth or things from Star Wars Clone Wars where we had these big battles, but this is a very one-sided battle. The Empire loses like 2 Star Destroyers when they're just interdictors. And yeah, that's about all they lose beyond like a couple AT-ATs and more ground forces. That's a lot more of a loss there, but you get this very big sense of loss here. It's bigger than anything like in Star Wars Clone Wars. The best thing I can compare it to is like the Malevolence arc, where we had like entire fleets destroyed of Republic cruisers. But yeah, like I think that was more spread out. This is a big blockade. This is the biggest thing we've seen in Star Wars Rebels, at least. This episode covers a lot of what the season's been building up to. And it kind of turns it on its head. We don't actually see them attack Lothal, which makes sense, because the first big win of the Rebel Alliance, we know for a fact, is Scarif. So it would have just been one cell would have destroyed this, but since they had help from Dodonna's fleet, it makes sense that they're keeping this a loss. Lothal's been turned into like this machine, this cog in the military machine of the Empire, and we see that coming to fruition. We've seen that come to fruition throughout the season. We knew something was going down on Lothal in Season 1, and like the way they were ordering disruptors, how they were building the TIE factories, everything's come together now. Like, the way Lothal's just been turned into this, just this giant martial law, covered wasteland of a once glorious planet. It's really, really kind of sad, because the entire show began there, and now we don't really get that anymore. Instead, now we have just this entire loss. Like, I don't think they're going to attempt Lothal again, but they might. We might see, like, an attack on the factories in Lothal, because we don't see TIE defenders in the movies. So they might have that be just, like, a strike force. It won't be as big it won't be a declaration of open war like Scarif was, but man, it's going to take a while to get that siege down to like attack Lothal, because they lost the majority of their ships. I think the Phoenix Squadron is about the same size now as it was when we first met them. Actually, after they lost the big carrier, it's about that same size now. They have very few cruisers, they have very few ships, they have a couple fighters left, and they have the Ghost left. It's not much. Everything we've built up over the last few seasons is gone. It just was wiped out in one fell swoop by Thrawn. So wow. And I like how the way Thrawn lost this, because he's such a brilliant tactician, is because of his underlings. People like Constantine, people like, I wouldn't even blame Price, I'd blame like his soldiers, everyone's just screwing this up. If Constantine hadn't screwed up, everything would have gone as planned. And you know what? This entire season just built to this. We had all these victories, all these gathering forces. Now they have like 2 Hammerhead ships and 1 cruiser. It's a loss. And, you know, I wonder where they keep getting these things. Like, I know Organa gives them ships all the time, but I'm wondering if they have any shipyards somewhere. Is there, like, on Yavin, are there shipyards? Are they constructing A-Wings? Are they constructing Y-Wings? Because they didn't make it out with that many Y-Wings, but in this episode, like, there are Y-Wings left and right. There are A-Wings destroyed left and right, but they keep getting more. So I'm thinking there's shipyards, because they did hint on that with the fact that the B-Wings, the blockade runners, were, they were created by that Mon Calamari guy, and he went off. So I'm thinking wherever they build, wherever he is, that's where their shipyards are. And I assume we're gonna build up the fleet again, because we need cannon fodder. But just it felt big, this loss. Like, the way they lost all these ships, all these things that we didn't really expect them to lose. Like, the hangar bay ship. That thing's gone. That thing was a big part of an episode. And, yeah, it didn't really get to play into anything. That they just showed this, alliance being built, and then it's just lost. We lose Commander Sato in this episode. And it kind of leaves the leadership of the Phoenix Cell up in the air. Like, you're questioning, hey, what's gonna happen to it now? Because it seems like Hera's now the leader of the cell. If I had to guess, because she was the one in charge of things on the ground, she's in charge of the cell, so I'm thinking since she wasn't in Rogue One, like at that meeting, I think that they're going to just be absorbed into another cell. Like, their cell took such a beating that they're just going to be absorbed. And it actually appears like this was one of the bigger ones, too. Like, when you look at how many ships they had, all the things they had, like a base, they had all this stuff, they were one of the bigger cells, like, out there. And now I think this bigger cell has been diminished in size so much, it's just going to be absorbed into another one. And that's kind of sad. We might just get Phoenix Squadron now instead of Phoenix Cell. And, yeah, it's just such a loss, this episode. Everything is just beaten down. You really get this sense of scale. You get this sense of everything's being destroyed. And since it's a two-parter, they're allowed to explore things better. The first part of this, when I first went into this episode, I thought it was going to be part 1 is they attack Lothal. Part 2 is they're going to be attacked. Like, I thought they were going to bomb there, then they're going to be followed back to, I think it's Anton, and then they're going to be destroyed there. But no, it's the first part is the space battle. The second part is on the ground, which, wow, it kind of reminds me, if anything, of like an upscaled version of Hoth. Like, in Hoth, imagine if they started out like with the blockade attacking the rebels, instead of it just being them on the ground. If they had started with in space, that's what it would have been like. So it's kind of like an upscaled version of Hoth, except it doesn't have like that dread of the AT-ATs coming through the mist. Oh, that just the AT-ATs showing up in Hoth. Hoth is one of my favorite battles. I think it is my favorite battle in the entire series because it feels so massive. It feels like you have all these ground troops and everything. Here it's more like they're hiding and they're blowing up things as they're hiding instead of it being anything big. This episode does a lot of like, everything's destroyed, but they hint at some stuff. Like, when I heard Kanan talking about how he has nothing left to teach Ezra, that's the kind of thing you say before you die. That's kind of like the thing, like when he said goodbye to Hera last season, and then he was blinded. Like, he's like, "Oh, we'll see each other again." Like, you're just asking to die when that happens, and thankfully he doesn't. I was really worried. Instead we get Commander Sato as our loss. He's the one who ends up sacrificing himself for the entire rebel cause. Yeah, and like, I know we didn't see him in Rogue One, so I had a feeling he was going to die. And man, did he go out in quite a big scene. Constantine kind of picks up the idiot ball and breaks the ranks, and if he hadn't done that, Thrawn would have just destroyed everything. But because he does that, Sato just turns into the ship, and they get like shredded to pieces, and it is a beautiful explosion again. And there's kind of this 1 second where you see like everyone's reactions, but then you have to go. Like, they give it time to breathe, but then they show the reaction as well. And, you know, it feels so cool to see, like, just they're allowing people time to breathe, even in such a high-stakes episode. And, yeah, I'm just happy to see that kind of thing. I'm happy when a show takes its time to really let characters breathe and really express themselves. This episode contains a few things from Rogue One that are kind of unneeded, but they're cool to see nonetheless. Death Troopers are one. They're kind of just there. There's really no reason for them. I guess because Thrawn is such a high-ranking officer, it kind of makes sense that he'd get access to these. And maybe they're saying that we're going to look into where they come from, what they do, why do they exist. I feel like we're going to get a bit more of a look into that if they're in Rebels now, because when something appears in Rebels, you're able to expand on it more than you would in the movies or even a book, because you're able to take multiple episodes for it. So I feel like they're going to play an important role later, but for now it's kind of cool to see. It's just a tie between Rogue One and Rebels, which is cool. Like, I have no complaints, it just kind of feels out of place. Kind of feels like it was just shoved in there because they could. Kind of like the way Constantine just has like this want for glory. Yeah, there were hints at that, but it wasn't as like, I never thought it was so profound that he'd disobey orders. But hey, it serves the plot. So when they just shove small things in there, the Death Troopers are less of a integral point to the plot. Like, Constantine is a bit more glaring and obvious. This one, it feels like I want to see them again. I don't know, like, they don't feel important to the plot, but I want to see them in another episode, and it's really cool to see them. Yeah, but, like, there's not much to say about them. They're just, like, I think they're a proto-design of the Death Troopers, because they're missing a couple aspects from Rogue One, which makes sense, because this episode was likely in production when Rogue One was, I think, pre-production. Like, Rogue One wouldn't have a finalized costume design yet, so they look similar enough, but if you really put an image of Rogue One Death Troopers and these ones side by side, you're not really going to get much of a, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not really going to get much of a, they're going to look different, but not too different that it's glaring. You're like, oh god, they don't fit at all. It's not like a big enough difference. Like, if you look at episode 3 Clone Troopers versus episode 2 Clone Troopers, it's not that big of a difference. It's more of like if you look at A New Hope Stormtroopers and then Return of the Jedi Stormtroopers, there's like a subtle difference, but nothing that only something like the most hardcore fan will pick up on. Yeah, this episode has that, and we also get a couple clever callbacks. For example, Kallus is using Ezra's tower in order to communicate the rebels as Fulcrum, and Thrawn arriving at that door, that was like, I had a feeling, like, you could just feel that something was about to go wrong, and the moment it cut out, I was just like, and it plays out exactly how you want it to play out. Like, you're not happy that Thrawn caught him, but at the same time, it's really cool to see that Thrawn figured this out. And he does a little bit of deductive reasoning. Like, it feels like he's not even thinking that hard about it. It feels like, yeah, this is just painfully obvious. I just have all the information I need. The way he's like, yeah, this is the trajectory of this fleet, and this is my, this is your transmission, so this is where the base is. Here's some artwork. And it just kind of felt like he was like, yeah, this is easy. This isn't like trying to figure out that you're Fulcrum. Like, now that I have all these clues, it's pretty easy to figure out. And it really shows his intelligence, the way he's able to just solve it so quickly. He explains it in like 3 lines. It's not that difficult. And he just gives 3 pieces of evidence, and that's the rebel base. Let's go. Yeah, and then, Kallus, like, the way he was beat up throughout the episode, like, they actually, like, they don't show the torture on screen. They clearly beat him up and tried to get information out of him. I'm not sure if they did. I don't think they did, but, yeah, I know they can't show that on Disney XD, but it's really implied. When you look at him, he has cuts, he has a black eye, he's clearly been beat around by either Thrawn or the Death Troopers. Either one. Yeah, and then he's just brought along for just seemingly to be there so that you can join the rebels later. Once again, it's like Constantine. Yeah, you can find a reason for it, and you don't really think too much about it. It doesn't really take you out of the episode. It feels natural that he'd be there. It just, like, if you really think about it, you're like, why was he there? Couple flaws in the episode, but nothing glaring that takes away from the overall experience. Yeah, like, Thrawn knowing of the attack, Thrawn basically baits Kallus into contacting the rebels by showcasing that he's like talking to Tarkin. I think he knew that Kallus would somehow find out about their meeting, so it makes sense. I like how they're still in Lothal because Price is the governor of Lothal, so, and that seems to be a place where everything's needed to go on right now. I like how he's using the same office that Vader used, that Tarkin used. All these characters, it's like the bad guy office. I think it's pretty cool to see that thing used over and over again. We actually get our first like major role of General Dodonna from we know him, that's the rebel cell that Luke will join. And actually I'm wondering if the Phoenix cell will be absorbed into that, because they're going to Yavin now. They're not going to Dantooine, which is a little odd. I was expecting they go to Dantooine. Maybe there is a base already on Dantooine that maybe Dodonna was on before, but then they're like, hey, we can go to Yavin 4. So no complaints. It's just kind of like, oh, I wanted to see Dantooine. But at the same time, seeing Yavin is a lot more cool, because that's where the rebels are hiding when Rogue One is going on. That's where the Rebel Alliance base is. It's not just the Rebel cells. This is when they're all aligned. They're all together. So I'm thinking Dantooine was just one of the bases, kind of like Antolon. So yeah, no complaints at all about going to Yavin at the end. But it's just the future of the Phoenix cell. I'm wondering about it, because we have very few ships. We have like Maul's ship left. We have a couple of these ships, and we see Hera's ship in Rogue One. So I'm thinking this is the Rebel Alliance base. So we're going to see a lot more characters now. Might even see Biggs desert the Empire, because we know he did that closer to A New Hope than he did. Like, if they had him in like the Antilles extraction, it wouldn't have really fit the original timeline suggestion that was originally thought of, like just before A New Hope. Apparently Biggs was there, and he was on Tatooine, and he was talking about how he had just graduated the academy. He had like a new outfit, and he was like, yeah, I'm just about to jump to the rebellion. So yeah, like I will maybe see that happen as we get closer, because no idea when the series will end. It could go past A New Hope, which I'm hoping it does, because that would be cool to see them establish like Echo Base or anything. Yeah, like actually there's a lot of allusions to Echo Base with the Antolon base, the way they have to attack with ground forces, the way there's a shield up. By the way, seeing a planetary barrage was really cool, because they said we should just go over the base and barrage it and Empire Strikes Back, but they couldn't because there was the shield. Here we have the shield up again, but we actually get to see this barrage coming down to the planet, and oh god, is it like scary. It's like that's probably one of the most haunting images in this entire series, to see like that barrage coming down from the sky about to destroy them. Yeah, it's haunting. It's a haunting image, and it's probably one of my favorite moments of the episode. And then Thrawn just calls it back. He could have destroyed them, but because Tarkin wanted prisoners, he couldn't. Like, everyone but Thrawn screwed up Thrawn's plan. That's the thing. His subordinates, the people above him, everyone screwed it up. If they had just followed his lead, he would have destroyed the rebels. Thank you for that, idiot governors and stuff. Oh. Yeah, I feel like the build up to this episode was appropriate, and I feel like the payoff was really appropriate. Like, how do you even report what happened there? Like with the Bendu. The Bendu is one of the main reasons they escape, and I love how he's not just attacking the Empire, he's attacking everyone, because instead of him saying he's neither the light and the dark, he's the one in the middle, now he's the one in the middle, and he's both of them. I noticed that when he was talking, when he turns into the storm, because he's just pissed off that Kanan brought war to his peaceful world. And you know, I'm wondering about the Bendu now, because he seems to be a force of nature. Is he like a representation of the planet? Because he fits in with the fauna and the flora very, very perfectly. But at the same time, like, he vanishes without a trace. He does this multiple times. He does this when Maul appears. He does this when all these things happen, and he always seems to be there at important events. And then at the end of the episode, he disappears with this just chilling laugh after telling Thrawn his fate, where he's going to thousands of arms surrounding him in a cold embrace. I don't know what that means. I think everyone else is confused. Like, there are going to be theories about that all summer. because it comes back in the fall, and we're still going to see Thrawn, and we're going to still see Price, and we have room for new villains. I'm excited about that, but more on that with my overall thoughts of Season 3 later. Yeah, just the tactics used here, the way the Bendu says he brings death. There's so many good things about this episode, and it's exactly what I want to see in a season finale. You know, it closes a lot of things. Bad things happen, good things happen, and it leaves you with a sense of hope. I think that's the most important thing. You leave with a sense of hope. But yeah, I can't really think of anything beyond that. Yeah, there's not really that much left to talk about. There's the sacrifice, there's seeing things we've never seen before. Some of the quotes are really good, but yeah, Cal joins the rebels. That's about it, honestly. Like, I'm gonna talk more about this later, but yeah, I can't really think of anything. Yeah, there's just a lot of things going on. Sorry about that. My roommate just walked in, and I kind of had to quiet down. But yeah, I guess I'll talk more about this later. You'll see another video of my overall thoughts of Season 3 and probably my predictions for Season 4, what I hope to see in the future. This season delivered more than I wanted, and it left so many things open for the future. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I know this is probably shorter than a lot of my videos, but this is actually my second time recording this because I had such a jumbled array of thoughts that I kind of just wanted to split it in half. So this is part 1. I'll talk more about my overall thoughts on Season 3, what I liked about the show after finally getting into it and watching it consistently. I've been watching consistently since a little, like, I only got into this recently. And I'm already, like, a major fan of the show because it's Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the sequel. How could you not like that? And yeah, let me know what you think about the episode down below, and I'll see you next time. Take care.